To receive coaching on how to create and grow a YouTube channel, invest in real estate, or achieve financial freedom, visit cashnow.video. Hey, what's up guys? John here. Did you know roughly 8.4 million Americans right now are behind on rent? 8.4 million. This is a huge, huge number. It's about 19, almost 20% of all renters are unable to pay their rent. It's obscene. It's absurd. But what I believe is going to happen next is going to be even crazier. Think about this. Imagine you're a landlord. Let's say, for example, you owned 10 units. You had 10 units and the same data appropriately impacted you. You had 2 tenants that were not paying rent. Yet you have fixed costs on this property, which are expensive, right? You have insurance that's increasing, as it is essentially everywhere in the country. Things are getting more expensive. Repair costs are getting more expensive. What are you to do if you have 10 units and 2 of them are not paying and they're essentially living with no income that's helping you to offset your costs, right? What are you going to do? You're likely going to increase the rents on the other 8, right, to make up for your losses. Then what happens? Then it's more than likely that of those 8, another one drops off, right? And then so what are you to do? You're to increase the rents again. And what I believe ultimately is going to happen here, I think we're going to start to see a revolution where people are really going to go against the landlord due to a narrative and a conversation that's going to be pushed that the landlord is the problem, that the landlord is the real issue. But really looking at this information, it's very concerning to me because we see the rising cost at Whole Foods. We see the rising cost all across our everyday life, but yet it's never the landlord. But this dynamic, this relationship in which landlords assume roughly 30 or 40% or maybe 50% of one's gross monthly income, they're the easiest target to this dynamic. Now, what I believe is going to happen is I believe we're going to start to see more rent controls, more protections that come into the housing market that I think is going to make it much more challenging for a landlord or an operator to operate their own buildings. And as this all happens, we're going to likely see increases in interest rates. The borrowing costs are going to be increasing. Insurance costs will likely just only increase. And the supply chain issues are only going to make things even more challenging for insurance companies to facilitate repairs and to, make good on their contracts that they have with homeowners. Meanwhile, costs are going to be going up for labor. So all of these things are going to be factored into insurance policies going forward. So if you look at it from the perspective of a landlord, as an operator, you have rising costs on your building, you have more uncertainty, you have insurance prices increasing. Right? Everything is going up, and then at the end of the day, you are the target. What I think is going to happen is I think a lot of the appeal of being a landlord is going to start to get pulled out, and capital is going to get harder to come by. And then what is this ultimately going to do? It's going to really open up opportunities for a smart and savvy real estate investor that understands the risk and understands the new rules to the game that are being rewritten right now. Take a look at this article. More than 8 million Americans are late on rent as rent prices increase. About 15% of U.S. renters aren't caught up with their payments, according to Census Bureau data, and it's about to get worse. This summer, as many leases come due and landlords boost prices, that represents 8.4 million Americans who are struggling to pay their monthly rents during June 1st to June 13th period of the census survey. The share was markedly higher for Black Americans. See, they're going to bring this in. And the reason that they bring this in is because they are essentially saying inequality and inequity, right? They're saying things aren't fair. They're saying change needs to come. And so if change needs to come, who is going to bring about that change, right? This all comes together. This all comes together. That's why I've been warning people in the real estate space that there is going to be big changes coming down the road. And I think it's smart that we all pay attention to what these changes look like so we can make smart and savvy financial decisions in relation to the risk that's now pushed onto the market. And for people age 40 to 54, an age when many are at their earnings peak, right? Take a look at the numbers. 43.6 million Americans. That's how many renters there are in the USA, right? There's 8.4 million renters. Total is 19.26%, so 19.3% essentially is the entire population that is unable to pay rent. I believe that we are going to see a couple things happen that are going to boost this number up even further. At the interest rates, that will have an impact on landlords, on property owners, sure. But what it will really have an impact on is the tenants that actually really want to pay, that really want to pay the rent. They're going to likely see massive layoffs because as interest rates rise, borrowing costs gets more expensive, and employers generally start to tighten up and issue mass layoffs like what we are seeing right now. If that does in fact happen, there's going to be less people that have jobs. And if less people have jobs, less people are going to be able to pay rent. And so you have this society. You have one part of the society that feels like they're being taken advantage of by their greedy landlord. Another part of society that wants to pay, but they're also being pushed out of the job market. And then you have the other part, which is the landlord, which feels like, hey, I'm a mom and pop landlord. I didn't do anything wrong. And over the last few years, what have I seen happen? I've seen all these new rules and regulations and restrictions with moratoriums and all this, making it very hard for me to just hold on to my family-owned property. And I've had increased costs and I've had to increase my rents. I didn't want to, but I was forced to. So you have all of these three different catalysts all kind of going at one another, and then you have the person on the other side of the room, big bro, saying, you know what, we can fix this. It's inequality, it's inequity. We need to do what's right. We need to bring housing costs down. We need more affordable housing. We've heard of it, right? We've heard of this whole spiel, right? And so the big question I have is, what does this look like, right? What does this look like for all of us? I think there's going to be big opportunities in the housing market. I really do. I think there's going to be huge, huge opportunity. We're already seeing a lot of people start to talk very badly about even things like Airbnb and house flipping and wholesaling. All of these new dynamics, all these new conversation pieces were not relevant 30 days ago, 60 days ago. People are starting to get a little bit more pessimistic into the real estate space, and I think we're going to be stepping into real opportunity here. I really, really do. I think big opportunity is going to be found in the real estate market, in the real estate space. Probably in the next 6 months. Just wait for Jerome Powell to continue increasing interest rates. Wait for people to really start to get a little bit more upset and fed up with these rent increases. You're going to start to see all across the country, rent boards and local governments all saying we need to, enact housing emergencies and housing crisis. We need to do this, we need to do that, we need to protect people, right? And all this is going to do is just increase the cost and increase the risk for landlords and operators. And these people are going to be forced, in many cases, to sell their properties. So if you have good credit, you have cash in the bank, you have a good plan, a really good strategy, what's going to happen? You're going to be there to help those people that want to sell, that have to sell. And you're going to be able to, walk in and buy that property. That's when big fortunes are made. There's a billionaire named Sam Zell. He has a very interesting story. He wanted to be an attorney. He went to school, right? He went to school, and when he went to school, he got out of school, and during that process, he became a property manager. He enjoyed it, and he started investing in real estate in school. He got out. He became an attorney for one day. He quit on day one. He decided to get into real estate more aggressively, but prices were way too high. And so what did he do? He sat out. He didn't invest at all. He just waited and waited and waited because the market was at its high. And then the market crashed, and then he developed the nickname called the grave dancer because he was dancing on all the graves of the former greedy real estate investors that overpaid for their properties. He now owns Equity Residential, Equity Office, Equity Lifestyle. He's one of the largest residential, commercial, and mobile home developers in the country. He owns roughly 1,000 mobile home parks throughout the country, which is a 43rd of the entire inventory for America, right? He's a huge, huge investor, wildly successful. And so I think we're going to see people rise up again like that are looking at the trends. They're seeing record high debts, record high consumer debts. We're seeing layoffs. We're seeing all these problems. You can see the writing on the wall. The writing is very clear, and smart and savvy investors are going to take advantage of it. What do you think about this number? 19.3% of all renters are not paying rent in America. It's a substantial figure, substantial. When people buy apartment buildings and multifamily buildings, they underwrite them under, a premise of like a 2 or 3% vacancy, and, maybe, 5%, they probably represent like a 5% vacancy. And then they'll have repair costs and they'll have other costs that they associate into it. But they're not factoring in the record high vacancies that they have right now with almost 20% of people not paying rent. People aren't factoring in these types of numbers. I think we're going to see changes. What do you think? Drop your comments below. Hit the like button. Subscribe here. Also subscribe to my second channel. It's going to be an interactive show and a podcast coming up this upcoming week. It's pinned down below in the top comment. Be sure to subscribe over there. If you want to learn about real estate, you want to build out a plan with this upcoming market crash, cashnow.com. You talk with me. I'll review your deals, talk to you about the economy, talk to you about everything that's going on. We're going to build out a plan together. If you want to get started on YouTube, cashnow.com, or cashnow.video, cashnow.video. And if you want to jump in and fix your credit, jump into a situation in which you can obtain a better credit score, it's cashnow.video. Cashnow.video to improve your credit score. I have an in-house credit repair team. They're amazing. And I'll catch you guys in the next video.